you dumb, beautiful fucker.
Who wants to be in America's slash fic with Abraham Lincoln?
Louisiana Purchase, that's a name.
You need to really get off my balls, okay? I'm gonna kick your ass.
Also, why was Michelangelo so stinky? Ew.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode.
That's going to be the first thing I hear. Is just,
You know, that's as good as cold open as any. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 240 of the AllYouCanHear podcast. I'll be your host today, Patrick. And joining me today is my co-host.
it's Juicy Jonathan.
Oh, extra juicy today.
I got the Juicy Couture pants. I got Juicy on my ass.
Yep. You can literally see the juice drop just like dripping out.
Oh, definitely. Oh, man, did I tell you that when my grandmother was in her right mind, like this woman, like, I mean, she was like 40, 50 years old, not giving a single fuck, just walking around with sweatpants with Juicy on the back.
God, you know what? Represent.
She did not give any fucks.
And I think, I would like to think you carried on that candle of just wearing cursed clothing around the house.
You know, I think it gives me personality.
I mean, you wore that cocaine sweater and a solid Coca-Cola out to lunch one day.
Yeah, I did. I also wore it to work once. Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't have anything clean at the moment. So I was like, you know what? It's cold. It's time for this weather.
Yeah.
It's got a cute cat on it.
And plus, like, it looks enough like Coca-Cola that people wouldn't notice what it was if they weren't, like, really paying attention.
Because, like, when I came in the other day with that on, like, I only work with one other lady. She's this older black lady. And she came in, she looked, and she's like, does that say cocaine? Yeah. But she thought it was funny, so.
I mean, if your one other coworker is okay with it, and I say it's okay.
Yeah. It's not like I really see many customers.
Yep. So.
And if not, you know, they need to stop clutching their pearls.
Yeah. Just turn your sweater inside out. Or how about this? Get over it.
That's easy. Just, you know, it's my life. I'm going to live it however the fuck I want, and you can get the fuck over it.
Yeah.
If you don't like me, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. I'm mad about it.
You're mad about it?
Huh?
You're mad about it?
No, die mad about it.
Oh, I thought you said, never mind.
Yeah, I'm mad about these hypothetical people that we made up just for the scenario, and it's legit heated right now. Fuck you, imaginary people.
So Twitter.
Yes. It's where straw men live in abundance and rent free in people's heads.
Yeah, it's just like I'm going to build this imaginary person just to tear down and make myself have some false sense of superiority.
And then people will assume that you're talking about a real person and then jump on this like discourse and then just run this through Twitter for a day.
Oh yeah.
And then people are like, who's the main character of Twitter today? Who fucked up now? And guess what? This person isn't real.
I fucking cannot stand Twitter, but I cannot get off Twitter.
It's
just like everyone is just like angry. It strips away any sort of nuance or context from any conversation. God forbid you try to have a political conversation and people will intentionally or unintentionally misinterpret what you say to fit some sort of like whatever person they're mad about.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Twitter discourse, I saw a little bit of one before we got on the horn today. Because in case you didn't know, Spider-Man Twitter is forever and always in a state of turmoil over inane fucking bullshit.
Like when you told me this off mic, like I halfway thought it was a joke because it is so fucking stupid. that people are like having a conversation about this, but please go ahead and inform the listeners.
Yeah, like Spider-Man Twitter for probably the nth time this week is like, what is your most controversial Spider-Man opinion? And the one I saw in my time, like, Spider-Man should not be able to stick to walls wearing shoes. And I'm like, this is what happens when you let just pedantic nerds who have too many feelings about characters, like, start to go off. I mean, like, obviously, this is a pot calling the kettle black because I'm a stupid nerd and I have very specific opinions about fictional characters.
But the thing is like, and maybe my brain is just wired different. Like, even, like, people that, like, I think are, like, abhorrent, I don't feel the need to shout into the void on Twitter about it either. Like, it's like, I'm going to have my opinion. Honestly, I get that out by screaming with y'all.
Yeah,
if we're being real.
Yeah, we're not like a square and talk shit on Twitter. We're cool and talk shit on a podcast.
Yeah, don't vague post when you can use simple and direct language.
Yeah. Which in itself might be a vague direct at somebody on Twitter.
I mean, who, though? There's so many people. like
exactly. Watch your ass. But anyway, yes, Spider-Man Twitter is just constantly in a state, and it's the exact same bullshit. Like, at least once a month, someone's like, "Who's the best movie Spider-Man? This is gonna be forever for real for all the marbles." I'm like, no, it's not. It's the exact same talking points. It's the exact same argument. It's the exact same bullshit. Just same shit, new month.
It's the same fucking argument, and nothing gets accomplished. So, like, that, why do we even have it? Because let's be fucking real. The real answer, objectively, to this question is Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, so
sorry, I like Tom Holland. Tom Holland's fucking great. He nails, like, high school Peter Parker, but college age Peter Parker, yeah, that's Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, so this is AYCH throwing our collective hat into the Spider-Man discourse.
But honestly, I was today years old when I found out not only is Spider-Man Twitter a thing, but also it is, like, apparently super heated.
Yeah, because, like, I'm not even on Spider-Man Twitter. I'm on Toku Twitter, which is like Tokusatsu Twitter accounts and, like, information, which, thank fucking Christ that Toku discourses, at least on my end, is rather rare. But, like, Spider-Man just sort of bleeds in because there's a lot of overlap between comic book fans and Tokusatsu fans. And then I feel like I get some, like, wacky bullshit about Spider-Man fans having opinions and, like, why they're all dirty and wrong. And I know, like, with the comic, there might be some new discourse because the Spider-Man comic recently started a new change in the creative team, new writer, I think, and new artist, and just sort of like new sort of starting point.
Yeah.
Where one of Spider-Man's maybe not many successors, but like one of his sort of contemporaries, Ben Reilly.
Oh yeah.
Who is, in case you didn't know, Spider-Man's Peter Parker's clone, who sort of has his own identity and has taken on the mantle of Spider-Man in the past. And due to a catastrophic accident, Peter Parker has been sidelined as Spider-Man, and Ben Reilly has once again assumed that identity. But what makes it different this time is that Ben Reilly, after being down in his luck for several years, has sort of kind of found a new lease on life with a newfound sense of, purpose and direction and, like, capital. Now that he is kind of being propped up by this giant scientific corporation. Basically, it's a corporately backed Spider-Man. And sort of like his sort of adventures in this direction for Spider-Man. And a lot of people feel like a corporately backed Spider-Man in late game capitalism society, in real world terms, why are we having this sort of story? And it's like,
I don't know. I feel like depending on how you do it, there's a lot of interesting avenues you can go down with that.
Yeah.
But the real question I have, Pat, does Ben Reilly still have the sleeveless hoodie?
No.
Okay, that's fucking bullshit, and they need to fucking fix that. Because I complain about pedantic nerds, but I'm also a pedantic nerd, and I don't like change.
Yeah, well,
And I don't really have that strong of feelings of Ben Reilly as a character anyway.
all right. We'll cut this, but I'm going to look up and show you what Spider-Man looks like in this.
Okay. God. But like, if you want to have like actual like hot takes about Spider-Man, like be like, I think the Clone Saga was good actually, or something like that.
Which is a very controversial like take, or at least in the original iteration of the Clone Saga, where like it tried to do some wild shit. Like, yeah, all the Spider-Mans you knew past the 1960s were actually clones of Peter Parker, and it just like got really wibbly wobbly with its fucking timeline, because the thing with mainstream American comics is that it's sort of on the sliding time scale, or yeah, like people and characters do get older, but like it's just sort of incrementally progresses with real life time.
Yeah,
because like very rarely it's like someone like actually get older. Like Spider-Man, if he was a teenager in the 1960s, he would be an old ass man now.
Oh, definitely.
And Peter Parker is perpetually in mid to late 20s to early 30s.
Yeah, and a lot of normally this really isn't a problem, but something I've always thought about, especially as of recently, it's like, what are they going to do with Magneto once they get...
Now I'm showing Jonathan what the current iteration of Ben Reilly's spider suit looks like.
I don't hate it.
It looks very similar. We can put it. We'll put this in probably one of our mini socials. But basically, Ben Reilly's new spider suit looks very similar to the traditional Spidey suit, except the spider is kind of like off center, on like kind of over his heart, and with like the spider legs branching out from there.
Yeah,
it's kind of like just like asymmetrical look a little bit, and I think it's pretty neat. And plus, you know, if there's like this, if they're trying to do like this seamless like replacement of Spider-Man, like people may not notice if like, oh wait, that looks a little different. How we know, and not realize it's a different person under the mask.
Yeah. Or technically it's the same person, but not
technically,
really.
if you want,
but only in like genetically. This is why comics are dumb, but I love them. But yeah, like, what are they going to do with Magneto? Because like one of the big things about Magneto was he was in the Holocaust. Like, not to get too morbid, but like I don't like. You can probably ask Justin that question, but I don't know if they changed that part of Magneto's story. They may just have it to where he's been altered in some way, where he like, you know, because of like magic or aliens or like whatever the X thing is, and the current backstory that Magneto, he's still a Holocaust survivor, but like because of some special property, he's been allowed to maintain this sort of youthfulness about him. Like, he's just a fucking jacked to shit gray-headed man. Oh yeah, like let's make no bones about it, the dude's like fucking huge, like everyone in fucking comics. But
yeah, even like the smallest person is more jacked and defined than they would be at that size.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, because that's like such an integral part of his story too. Yeah. Like, depending, and you know, obviously there are various versions, but like,
I will say, like, I know with like in terms of like scaling up the time, like, you know, in the original Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic and the Thing, when they were normal humans, they were like in the World War II. They were like war buddies from then. And then as time progresses, they sort of alternate with the point in which they were like soldiers. Like it was like the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Desert Storm, Iraq. So
whatever the most modern U.S. conflict is.
That would be like a reasonable distance from the current day.
Yeah.
So,
or I say but I get what you're saying.
So it's sort of that sliding time scale, which is how comics work. Just like, you know, how every character is still at like peak human, you know, or maybe not peak, but kind of like this very like a reasonably attractive moment in their history. And like there definitely have been certain characters that have grown up. Like some people say like every 100 issues is like a year in comic time. And that's a very nebulous thing, but you know how some characters were like teenagers and at a certain point, and then like after several years they are like mid to early 20s.
Yeah.
Like how in Marvel there's like, you know, how like Kate Bishop and Patriot, Hulkling, Wiccan were all like the teen heroes from like 10, 15 years ago. And now the teen heroes are like Miles Morales, Miss Marvel, folks like that. They're the new teens.
Yeah.
And like their counterparts are all kind of like aged up to early to mid 20s.
Yeah, and then, you know, like back in the 80s, there were various X teams that provided that.
Yeah, like Kitty Pryde was a teenager when her character appeared in X-Men, and now it's established that she's a 20 to 30 something now.
Yeah, it's just sort of weird how comics work like that. And on one hand, I kind of wish they didn't do that, because I do like complete stories with more like structure and satisfying builds and payoffs. But at the same time, I think that like having it being this long, continuous, like unending story, basically,
Because I definitely
makes comics unique in that aspect.
I definitely do like that, how like comics are cyclical, how like they'll kind of reach a crescendo and then they'll kind of like resettle themselves, and it's just like a wheel, and it just sort of goes on from there. Like but like there was a comic that came out years ago called Earth X, where it's basically what if the characters had lived in real time. So you have like, when it came out, it was like let's say the 2000s, and you have like, you know, like a 6-year-old Cyclops trying to find new mutants to help restock the X-Men, because everyone else had gotten old and splintered off.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept.
And there's been a run of kind of limited series called Life Story, where it started with Spider-Man, interestingly enough, where it would show, it was like a 5 to 6 issue miniseries where each issue would be a different decade in that character's life. Like Spider-Man when he first started in the 60s and growing up in the 70s, and like his life progressing in real time until you get to like the 2000s, and like he's an old man. Which was, I think I finished most of that series. I think I'm missing the last issue where it's like Spider-Man in like the 2000s or 2010s, where he's like 70, 80 years old.
Yeah. Because I mean, we really don't see that many stories about superheroes aging either. So like, and I know like the part of it is, you know,
they're like these eternal characters that anyone can jump into, figure like in theory, and sort of and have their time with them, and then they can sort of cycle out. Like, you know, it's just this never-ending sort of story.
Yeah.
But I would like to see, like, you have like, if you have like maybe something like a fix, like someone who's a fixture in time, and the people change it. Like Thor is immortal; he's a god.
Oh yeah.
And you have like how it's been touched on a few times, how he sees people come and go, how like 10, 15, 20 years are like just moments passing in time for him, and how there's so many people, like even he says people he's loved and fought for, but he can't remember who they are because he's lived so long.
That is fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Which is why I love, like, one of the reasons I love Thor is that, like, he's like this figure that's always, maybe not always, but he's been alive for thousands and thousands of years, and like has lived and experienced so much that he's forgotten so much of his life, because like even a god can't remember every single thing they've done.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just sort of like the passage of time is just like, I don't know, that like that like any time like anyone's like, oh, I would want to be immortal, I'm like, but do you though?
Did you like, and plus like it's funny to think about like an immortality is like, oh, I'm just gonna be like this hunky hot version of myself forever. And it's like, what if immortality is like you just get old, like you progress as you normally would, you just get more decrepit as time goes on,
to where like by the end of it you're just like a nervous system,
like you're just like this sentient, like you're like the fucking like old woman skeleton from SpongeBob.
Yeah.
It's like, what did he say? What did he say?
Chocolate.
Oh man, that would just, and that would just be terrifying. Like for me, like one of my worst fears is just like being cognizant but not being able to do anything. Like, if that makes like being in a coma, but being aware that you're in a coma.
It's like you're a living ghost.
Yeah, like there's a there's a fucking movie called Johnny Got His Gun.
Okay,
and it's set in World War I, and a guy, I think he steps on a landmine or something, and he loses all of his limbs, his sight, everything, but he's still alive.
Yeah,
and all like doctors are like experimenting on him, but he can't like tell them what like how he's feeling.
Yeah,
so he's just like in this like agonizing pain as he's like floating in and out of memories and shit.
Oh, that sounds so brutally depressing.
Oh yeah,
And
this is a weird connection, but fucking Metallica bought the rights to the movie.
Okay,
and they used it for their music video 1. It was their first music video they had, and that's what that song is about.
Okay,
and it's just like fucking terrifying.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking gnarly.
Anyway, so how do we come back from this, Pat?
Well, what you're talking about, what I laughed earlier is like, you know, what it's like to be cognizant and not be able to do anything. You could be just like, oh, you're trapped in your own body, or it's like listening to a podcast where the hosts are talking about like, oh, what's this thing I can't remember? And you're just like, it's this.
Oh God, that would be fucking hell. Because I'm the person, like, I won't like go in comment sections or something, but like if someone says something and I know like either they get it wrong or if they misspeak or just, I was like, what's that thing? And I'm just like, it's this, you dumbass.
Yeah, that's the closest we'll ever be to being a ghost until we, you know, I guess pass on. It's just like just the cruel impotence of not being able to like respond in time to a podcast when they're asking like a question you obviously know.
Oh yeah, I imagine there's probably some listeners of our show that do the same thing to us.
This that, God damn it.
Because in case you don't know, listeners, I may be many things, but one thing I am is dumb of ass.
It's like, I may be a dumb bitch. Bottom text.
Yeah.
But on a similar thing we talked about, you know, a cyclical nature of time, a wheel of time, if you will.
A wheel times a flat circle.
Jonathan and I have been watching the new Wheel of Time series on Amazon Prime, and we recently, as of this recording, we had finished the 4 available episodes that have been released at this time, and figured it'd be good if anything to talk about it because we haven't seen too much about it, at least on our respective timelines, in terms of like people talking about it.
Yeah, like I have to go out of my way to find any sort of people talking about it. But yeah, it's, you know, fantasy series by author Robert Jordan, who infamously died during the making in the home stretch of writing the books, and Brandon Sanderson came in and finished it out, and apparently like the ending is like really fucking good, and people just really love this series.
It's like a huge fantasy franchise that people have been fans of for years, and after like there's been like some legal like waffling over like who had the rights to make something, but Amazon, they finally got the ability to produce this new or this adaptation of it.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't see how you could do this show in a pre-Game of Thrones world.
Yeah.
Because like the Game of Thrones, especially, like the magic is very low tier, and it's not like super bombastic, at least not till the end. But like this is very like magic centric, you know.
Yeah.
There's just a lot going on, and on top of that, the book series is like 14 books where they're like at least 700 pages.
Yeah, like every book is like a doorstopper. I remember looking into it a little bit. Like apparently there was one book, or maybe even a few interested in the series, where the publisher for the Wheel of Time said if this book was literally 1 page longer, we physically could not bind it together.
Jesus Christ.
Or literally, they would have to develop a new form of book binding in order to make it like in a single volume.
Jesus Christ.
Just to give you an understanding of how like long each installment is. Like it's like minimum 400 or 500 pages, and there's 14 books in this series,
and one prequel if you want to read that.
Yeah. So, and what we're sort of gathering from the new adaptation is that distillation is the name of the game.
Yeah, like I think they're just going to try to hit the main points of the story. Probably because I think there's something like 2,000 named principal characters in the book series or something stupid ridiculous like that. And
Jonathan was saying before the show that like in their research talking like how there's like multiple books where like the plot does not really progress. It's just like it's X characters like experience at the same time as this other character, and it's just like all these people going through their moment of time while this is happening.
Yeah, and it's like, from what I've heard, it's more of like setting things up to continue for the latter half of the series. But like, because I've known about this series for honestly since I was a kid, because you'd see those ridiculously awful but charming mass paperback covers. And, you know, I'm always interested to see what this was. But anytime I looked into it, I'm like, 14 fucking books. God damn, that's a commitment.
Yeah, what's the abridged version of this?
Yeah, it's like the fantasy version of One Piece.
I mean, and this series has been around forever, so...
Yeah, I think the first book came out in 1990.
Yeah, it's a very long tenured series. And me going in, like, I had, like, no idea, no foreground of what this series is. So when we started this a few weeks ago, because they released the first 3 at once, and then this past Friday of this recording, they released episode 4. And I guess the first thing that kind of surprised, like, I noticed is, like, it's very woman-centric.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very, like, diverse fantasy landscape.
Yeah, I don't know how much of... Like as far as, like, the whole, like, world being ruled by a matriarchy, that's from the book.
Yeah.
But I think, like, they intentionally went out to have, like, a more diverse cast.
Yeah. Which, you know, it's fantasy. People were like, why are there brown people in my fantasy setting with magic and dragons and elves? Like...
Who gives a shit?
It doesn't disrupt the narrative at all. Once you have fucking dragons and bullshit in your story, it trying to like, oh, in real medieval Europe there weren't people of color. It's like, fuck off. Who cares?
But there were like people of color in medieval Europe. But that's a whole fucking...
Don't you fucking racist nerds.
God, nothing worse than fucking virgin nerds or racist virgin nerds.
So, the gimmick of the show is like it's Rosamund Pike's character. She's just part of this sect of women like wizards and magicians, and they're looking for this person who's being reincarnated in the current day called the dragon. And thousands of years in the past, it was this malevolent person called the dragon who just sort of fucked up the whole world. And due to their extreme ability to manipulate like the magic in the world, they sort of like perpetuated their life. So they would come back and reincarnate at some point in the future. Yeah. And because since they're being a great power, they can either cause great harm, or cause great, benefit to the world. So Rosamund Pike's out looking for this, and she thinks she finds 4 potential candidates within this like little sleepy village in the mountains.
Yeah, which is kind of like the Shire from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
like the thing with this show, at least right now, it's not stuff you haven't seen before, especially if you're familiar with fantasy at all.
Yeah,
and granted, a lot of it, especially over the past like 20-30 years, has been influenced by the Wheel of Time.
I mean, Wheel of Time is like a very like we said, that's a long-lasting series. It's very influential. So,
yeah. And I mean, and this series started like 6 years before Game of Thrones was published. So, like, there's going to be some, like, as far as like comparing it to Game of Thrones, maybe some.
It feels a little reductive and unfair.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, because Game of Thrones managed to come to TV first and have like this big cultural impact, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who see it. It's like, well, this just kind of looks like generic fantasy. And people will probably see the books the same, but like, it's the whole Seinfeld is unfunny concept where someone that sort of innovates or like is like this sort of like forefront or building block in a genre, you know, if they're sort of coming, like if there's just a new adaptation that comes to people's attention, they may not realize the influence it had.
Yeah, exactly. It's like like the kids who are like, oh man, Kanye, he's really helping this old man out who's making it big, this Mr. Paul McCartney, and having no context for who the fuck Paul McCartney is like. That's kind of how it feels in a way.
And plus, like, people who don't realize like what's coming forward, they naturally may not notice this.
Yeah.
And plus, it also doesn't help that the show is intentionally being made in a way that's visually and aesthetically similar to Game of Thrones, like, and I guess in a way to court that audience now that Game of Thrones has finished, and in a way squandered its legacy.
God, those last two seasons were fucking garbage. I'm sorry. That was bad. That was some, like, because the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones are some of the best television that has ever been or ever will be. But those last 2 seasons are unironically some of the worst. Like, especially that last season was just, and I was a defender up until probably the final episode.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, okay. So all of my investment in this at this point has been a waste of time. All right, cool. That's nice to know.
So, real time, it might be like a palate cleanser for people who are disappointed by Game of Thrones. I mean, like you yourself, you know, a spurned Game of Thrones fan. I guess, like, for you, how does this feel, and what are the things that's been keeping you interested that you liked about it?
While there are definitely some nods to Game of Thrones, like I still probably wouldn't feel comfortable showing this to like a 10-year-old, for instance.
Yeah,
but it's definitely a little more tame, and I think I enjoy that. Like, it's like, and one of the complaints, especially about early on in the books, like the first 3 books, is it's apparently fairly similar to Tolkien before it kind of goes off into becoming the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
But I do like the more, I don't say lighthearted, but you know, that more traditional fantasy tone.
Yeah.
And like The Witcher to me is closer to Game of Thrones. Like they're trying to do very similar things, and as far as like comment on these fantasy stories, fairy tales and stuff like that, versus like this just trying to tell like an epic fantasy story.
And then there's nothing wrong with that, and plus I do appreciate with Wheel of Time so far that I know that people got turned off with even early Game of Thrones. It's sort of like, one, just ubiquitous, unnecessary, gratuitous sex.
And I will say Game of Thrones gets better about that later on, but those first few seasons, and I'm not a prude, I'm a very I'm very sex positive, and it's not that, it's just a lot of it felt very exploitative, if that makes sense. Not to be like wag my finger or, you know, be
but I felt like it wasn't like, did this need to happen? Like what does this serve other than just to be like titillation?
Yeah, and it's in the books. Mm-hmm. And the books have their sort of problems with it, but it's nowhere to the effect of those like first 2 seasons. I
mean, it's just a very like infamous, or maybe not infamous, but it's just a very like well-known moment where like there's like a villain who's like giving his like evil plan, and while these 2 like prostitutes like finger blast each other.
That one bitch has the other one like a fucking puppet, like elbow deep. It's like,
what?
Is this really necessary?
What is this here for? I mean,
Yeah.
and like obviously,
And it's to inform his character, and his character is a brothel owner, and not to get into like Game of Thrones. You know, this is supposed to be about the Wheel of Time, but yeah, it's like it can make sense, but it's like at the same time, let's not kid ourselves. This is mainly to show TNA.
yeah.
Which, I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you know,
It's like all how it's framed and all how it's
and
done.
time and place too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a time and a place for horny.
Yeah, and I like, and like this show, I think, whereas like Game of Thrones, especially that part, had like a more like adolescent edge to it. To me, I feel like this is a little more mature in some ways, especially when it comes to like sexual material, because like the characters fuck, and you know they fuck, but it's not like. It's just like something that is versus like, oh my god, look at this fucking pair of boobies.
Look at them titties. Look at this like just rock hard cock.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I really enjoy the sort of how this is a middle ground between Tolkien and Martin.
Yeah, because I feel like in my head there's like a fantasy scale. Like you have. On one end, it's like in terms of like tone and I guess like certain content. You have Lord of the Rings on like the left side. Then kind of up from it a little bit is Wheel of Time. And up from that is The Witcher, and then on the far end is Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some other even darker stuff. But
the sort of like layout, like the AYCH sliding fantasy timeline.
yeah. And not to say that like Lord of the Rings isn't dark or fucked up. Like I reread the Lord of the Rings earlier this year, and it's like there's some heavy stuff.
I mean, yeah, it's an analogy for fucking World War II.
Yeah, it's just like this is fucking intense, but like I think it's all about sort of the tone as well. Like it's like, oh, there's dark stuff, but you know you can sort of overcome it. Whereas like you feel like the crushing existential weight of all these systems at play when you read or watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But one of the big things I like about it too is how magic centric it is.
Yeah.
Which like I think if you're going to get like an adult into game or into fantasy, you start with Game of Thrones because that is definitely more. The magic is more. I don't say real, but. It's more grounded. It's not like wizards throwing fireballs and
yeah, it's definitely more like subtly, like woven into the world.
Yeah, and like everything else in Game of Thrones, the magic is very transactional, like kind of monkey's paw sort of thing.
Yeah.
So like you get this one thing, but you lose something in return.
Yeah, I guess it's like to offset like this awesome power.
Yeah,
and not just like, oh, you get to use like laser beams and like summon up monsters just for free.
Yeah, well, and even then, like most of the magic just kind of sucks, and it's the cons far outweigh the pros as far as using it. Versus this, where they're like throwing lightning bolts and shit all the time, and
I mean, there's definitely like a physical toll, but it's kind of like you exhaust yourself, not just like, oh, there's like a price in terms of like you like lose an arm or you go blind
or it's not like in Game of Thrones where it's like, okay, we're going to sacrifice this horse so your husband can live, but your husband is going to be a vegetable and the baby that's in your belly, yeah, now it's a lizard person. Like that's Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Versus this, but What I've been sort of hijacking this conversation. What are your thoughts on it, Pat?
I'm definitely along for the ride. I feel like I haven't been like super just blown away by anything, but like it's like I feel like it's a very capable adaptation, not knowing anything about the original text. But like I'm enjoying it. I think the visuals are cool. Like it's not. I mean, some people tell me this is the worst CG on television. Currently, I'm like, that's bullshit. It's serviceable. And like, plus, like, that's a whole fucking discourse about the fucking series. It's like, it's the worst CG in that, like people acting like this show is fucking made on like the Apple II. I'm like, sit down.
Like honestly, like a lot of it is pretty good. Like I'm not going to sit here and say it's great, but like especially for television, this is up there.
Yeah, I mean it isn't like the fucking Flash on the CW. Like, come on. Which like those CG is so egregious that it kind of wraps around to being funny. Like when those fuckers pulled out like lightsabers with lightning.
Oh my god, I watched Flash for like a season, and I was like, okay, this is fun. But from what I heard, that show got really stupid.
Yeah.
And just seeing the clip of fucking Barry pull out fucking Speed Force lightsaber.
Yeah.
It looked like fucking Kuwabara's spirit sword from Yu Hakusho.
Yeah. We'll get to look forward to the live action Yu Hakusho.
God damn it, that is happening. Fuck. Okay, side tangent from the Wheel of Time. We're coming back to the Wheel of Time. But can we stop? Can we just fucking stop with the anime live action adaptations?
I mean,
especially of shows that don't fucking need like an update or an adaptation, like Cowboy Bebop, which is basically perfect as is.
Yeah, and like just saying, even Japan didn't have a good track record with live action adaptation.
No, like I mean, like,
and what do you think fucking dipshits from America are gonna do to enhance the product? Not much.
Yeah, it's like let's just put ScarJo in front of it, I guess.
I will say, at least for the upcoming One Piece adaptation, the cast seems to be a good cheer and good spirit and like enthusiasm about the series. Which, you know, live action One Piece, how nightmarish is like live action CG Luffy rubber stretching going to be?
How? I'm sorry. There are some things that just belong to animation, and most anime, unless you're doing like a grounded show, why even attempt? Like it's never been done well, and like I mean I like in every and so many people were excited for that Cowboy Bebop adaptation, and I don't know why. Like I'm just like, this is going to be bad. Like same with the Avatar one that's coming out. It's going to be probably not great. Even even the fucking guys who were involved with it, who were involved in the Nickelodeon show, were on board with the Netflix, but didn't they leave?
I don't know. Although I will say, I think Daniel Day Kim is going to do his best as Fire Lord Ozai.
Yeah. And the thing is like with like Cowboy Bebop, I think like John Cho, that's inspired casting for Spike Spiegel.
Even if some people are like, he's too old to be Spike Spiegel.
Well, I mean, Spike wasn't that young, though.
They say Spike Spiegel's supposed to be 26 in the series, and John Cho's like in his 40s.
Who cares?
Yeah, I'm kind of just like, you're lucky they got an Asian person to be fucking Spike. But anyhow, Wheel of Time, I'm digging it. Definitely the first two episodes are more kind of like content forward. The third episode is definitely the slowest so far, but episode 4 picks back up. A lot of magic shit happens in episode 4. Somebody goes fucking Super Saiyan.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, or wild for what this show is right now.
But wild for what it is so far. Like, I do like the whole idea of them looking for like this reincarnated figure, and like for years, like, oh, we've seen several false dragons so far over the years, and like they find like someone who may be an outside of the 4 people that like initially start the cast.
Yeah.
And like aren't they this, you know, reincarnated figure? Because like in this world, people can use magic, but apparently the big bad guy fucked up magic for everybody by making men who use it go crazy, and the women wizards who are like kind of like the protectors of the realm, so to speak, they hunt down any man that has a inkling of magic power, and they just sort of fuck them up. So only women can use magic without being crazy by it.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have their own, you know, whims and needs and, like, machinations. So, like, everybody's got something at stake here.
Yeah, and while I don't think this show is, like, necessarily a feminist masterpiece or anything, you know, because this is a show, like, or from a book series written by a guy in the 90s mostly.
Yeah.
90s and 2000s, so... And he was an older man when he was writing, so he might have, you know, some of that stuff might bleed through. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, this is like the most feminist show ever, but I do like the more female-centric approach to it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, we're, you know, AYCH, we're saying check it out.
yeah, like Pat and I have said, it's if you're remotely familiar with fantasy and fantasy tropes, I don't think this is necessarily going to blow your mind. For me, it was scratching an itch I've had for a while, so like I plan on keeping up with it. And as far as just like more technical things like the writing, the acting and stuff like that, I think it's competent at least, and in some places great.
Yeah. I would say it's a very solid, capable series, and like there's been worse.
Yeah, and I mean, and it seems like it's getting better as it goes along.
Yeah, definitely. This most recent episode, I think, is the strongest one so far. So, like, yeah,
because there were like a couple episodes where I'm like, okay, I want to continue, but like after seeing this one, I'm like, I need this next episode.
yeah, because this is definitely like a big crescendo moment so far. Okay, this is where big shit's about to happen, because apparently it's only 8 episodes, so like we're halfway through, so shit's got to pop off soon now.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where it goes. I might check out because I have the first 3 books.
Yeah.
So I might check those out, see what that's like. And yeah.
Okay. But I will say, because we're talking about magic, I do think it's a great time to mention my favorite current meme right now, which is Pondering Orbs. I fucking love this meme. It's just people take like old fancy book covers like Wizard and their crystal balls. It's like me and the boys pondering orbs. It's like, it's funny as shit.
I don't, and it's like most meme humor. You can't explain why it's funny. It's just funny.
It's just, there's something that's inherently ridiculous about it, and the context it's presented in is like, yes, I like this. This is my new meme.
God, what?
Because my first one I saw was like this like wizard that's like shirtless and like abs and shit, and he's like, he's got his hands up in the air, but like someone put like the composite picture. It's like hot wizards in the area.
Yeah.
I just want, what's that say? Hot wizards in the area. I don't want love. I just want sex. See my orb. Click here. And I'm just like, yeah. If you want a hot wizard to ponder your orb, download the new hit app Ponder, Pondr, the #1 wizard hookup app.
Yep. So you can ponder orbs with the ones you love. This is one of my favorites.
Sorry, bitch, I was pondering my orb. And like, I love how that one's like also a Yassify meme too.
Yeah.
How like, you know, I love how we're talking about very specific Twitter memes. Anybody who's not chronically online, like, that would be like, what the fuck are they talking about?
God, like, I feel so fucking internet poisoned. Like, I try to like have any sort of remote conversation with anybody who's not us, and I can't. I like before my boss ended up leaving, I forgot, I unironically used the term Giga Chad and had to stop for 10 minutes to explain the fucking lineage of this word, like to unpack it.
Yeah. And like, like literally everybody in AYCH, like, we're Twitter pilled, we're internet poisoned. Like, because we don't text, we only communicate each other through Twitter DMs, and it's just bullshit that we find. And right now, I'm living for the Ponder the Orbs meme. All right, we're hitting a good stride right now. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a break and be right back with you with more Banter.
would you? You believe in theft of personal property? I see what you did there. But I have the actual thing. You don't have it. I will hunt you down, and I will kill you.
Yeah.
Delete that screenshot now. Delete it now. Delete that screenshot.
Twitter, take away, right-click, save. They're impacting my portfolio. Yeah, I got something for all you. I got an NFT for all you crypto bros. The nearest fucking trash can.
Oh.
Bah, bah, bah.
I got your fucking NFT right here.
Good shit. Yeah,
Good
hello, right, welcome back. And fuck NFTs.
Yeah.
And, you know, AYC says just say no to NFTs.
Not even once.
Not even once.
Not even once.
But in the second half, I think we worked up a little bit of an appetite talking about Spider-Man and magic and wizards and shit. So we're going to have a little bit of a mini taste test for you.
Ooh.
I bought an item not too long ago that I've been waiting to produce on this show for a banter, and I think this is as good a time as any. So we'll be trying for you today the limited edition Pringle flavor Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich.
Wow. Given the Wendy's Pringles track record, I'm not expecting all that much.
Because the Wendy's Baconator was not good.
I mean, it tasted like a Baconator, but for a chip, that's not a good thing.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't very appetizing, but
No.
we're going to see if they can have a good sophomore outing with the spicy chicken sandwich. Well, it doesn't really have much of a smell. And color-wise, it's pretty tame. It's not like a...
I mean, it just smells like a Pringle.
Yeah. All right, we'll try it. 1,
Mazel tov.
2, 3.
I don't hate it.
There's definitely some spice on it, but like it's not hot right away. I think you probably get a little heat once you eat a few of them.
I think that those are pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, granted, my expectations were in the toilet. But I mean, this is a solid Pringle.
Yeah.
It's got enough spice.
Yeah, the heat definitely builds with each chip.
Oh, I can imagine.
But not bad. A says okay. So
Yeah.
Spicy chicken sandwich.
Give it a try if you're interested.
at the nearest Walgreens to your location.
Is it like a Walgreens exclusive?
That's just where I found mine.
Ah. So, yeah.
So,
Cheeky Sammy.
chicken Sammy. Speaking of food, we had Thanksgiving recently.
Oh, yeah.
I think Thanksgiving went well for both of us, although nothing too big or crazy. Although Jonathan's family, they had a new addition for Thanksgiving. Why don't you elaborate on that?
So, my parents or family dog had a family dog growing up, and she was approaching 20 years old. So she was old, and we ended up having to put her down, which is sad. She was a good dog, but you know that was a few months ago, and my mom been going through a lot, so she ended up getting a little puppy for herself. And he is the cutest little shit on the face of the fucking planet. and it's not just me that says it. You know, I might be a little biased. But I've had multiple people say that they would give their life for this little puppy.
I think almost everybody.
Just look at that face.
They're so cute. What type of dog are they, Jonathan, for the audience?
He is a lab mix with Great Pyrenees.
Okay, he's gonna be a big boy.
So yeah, he's gonna be a big fucking dog. But right now he's really tiny and like really cute, and he's just super sweet. Just Like, look at that.
Oh, he's laying on his back. He just like sticking
Calm
out.
the fuck out. But yeah, his name is Bama, which I kind of wish my mom went with a different name because it was like the most stereotypical name for a dog around here.
Yeah, because Tuscaloosa, home of the Crimson Tide, Alabama, Roll Tide. It's like you knew either you yourself had a pet named Bama in some capacity, or knew somebody who had a pet named Bama.
Yeah, and then my mom was like, I was going to name him Bear, which was the second most used name for a dog.
Because Bear is named after Paul Bear Bryant, one of the most
God damn it,
famous,
I didn't even think of that. God fucking
famous coaches for Alabama college football.
Yeah, outside of current coach Nick Saban, probably the best they've had, but God, I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, they could have gone a whole different direction. They could have called it Stalin after Dean Stalin.
Yeah, I mean he does have a single national championship under his belt.
Yep, and that was probably the Alabama football coach I remember the most clearly when I was a kid.
God,
which would have been like the early to mid 90s.
Yeah, because I think they won getting the Alabama football lore. And the fact that I have to put it in those terms is wild. But because he won the championship in 92.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wasn't even alive.
I swear my aunt had a picture of Gene Stalin somewhere in her house because, like, everybody in my family, huge Alabama football fans.
Oh, yeah.
And most people around here are Roll Tide, Roll Tide, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Like it's one of those things I hate that I like football as much as I do because, of, like, a lot of the culture around it. But, like, I mean, you can just go to, like, if you're going to a game or tailgating or something, you can just walk down the fucking University Boulevard and you'll just hear 1,000 Roll Tide.
Like, literally, we could probably stick our head out the door and scream Roll Tide and just hear it distantly in the background. Roll Tide! Oh, there we go.
Yep.
And plus, like, as someone who's not a football fan, I just like yelling with my friends. So if I just yelling Roll Tide is what gets me there, I'll fucking say it.
Yeah. And plus, that, like, I use that shit both ironically and ironically, because it is such a, like, good, like, it's such a good, like, declaration of just disappointment of just, like, when someone's like, oh yeah, this happened to me today, it was really bad, it really sucked. I was like, Roll Tide.
It's very multi-purpose.
Oh yeah,
Declaration of excitement, depression, irony. Whatever you need to punctuate a statement, just say Roll Tide.
Just say Roll Tide. Yeah, it's it's probably like the one thing that we have of our culture that's not super shitty. So yeah, it's like, why not?
We're taking Roll Tide back.
We're reappropriating Roll Tide. All right, you fucking racists don't get Roll Tide.
Nope. It's just us and us newfangled folks.
Yep.
I just want a fucking, like, queer pride flag, but it's like the Alabama. It's like Big Al in the middle of it. We're changing it. Big Al is now Big Ally.
Pat. That's fucking genius. Just.
Hey, you know what? Big Al said gay rights and trans rights.
I'm just like, Big Al says trans rights, and if you don't agree, he will step on you. God, that he will roll over you like a tide.
Oh, it makes sense now. But anyway,
that's got to be the image. Pat is just fucking Big Al on the trans.
No,
flag.
I've been, like, collecting in my head, like, all the different talking points. There's gonna be, like, Spider-Man. I'm gonna make an app button for Ponder, the wizard hookup app. Big Al with like a trans flag.
Yeah. I mean, Big Al already said Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Which, I was very pleased when Nick Saban, he's like, hey, you know what? Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, well, one, Saban's from not around here.
Yeah.
So, probably doesn't have that baggage. And also, hearing that man get mad is the funniest shit.
No, like, he gets hot. Like, he's about 3 inches off the ground when he's hollering.
And like, there was an interview recently where he was just shitting on entitled fans. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't win them all right?
And, like, I love how less of a shit he never gave much of a shit, but how he's gotten progressively less of a shit to give over time.
Yeah, and like, especially, like, summer of last year during all the protests, like, him and the team, like, firmly came out, and they were like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. And all the fucking racist chodes were just like...
They were so mad, and like...
But they didn't say anything, though.
They fucking swallowed that.
They swallow, and it's the funniest fucking shit. I'm just like, suck it, Randall.
Yeah, the fucking thing that you put up on, like, the fucking idol that you put up above your fucking savior said Black Lives Matter, and you have to fucking grew on it. Because in this town, it's fucking Crimson Tide football and Christ. And sometimes those are kind of jockeying for position in people's lives.
Honestly, I think probably football is more important than Jesus.
A lot of these are like...
Because at least they actually give a shit.
Yeah, because
about
like
football.
Christ to them is just like a fucking performance they put on, and it's fucking fake. They don't have any sort of...
It's an excuse to make themselves feel superior.
Yeah, they don't have any sympathetic value. If they did, they would be fucking saying Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and we're not saying this to shit on like all like religious.
Yeah,
people.
it's an anti-religion. It's anti-asshole. So you use religion as a fucking cudgel against people who are disadvantaged in the world. Because guess what fucking Christ did if he existed? It's helped the disadvantage of the world.
Yeah, I mean... There's a reason why Jesus was a socialist meme as a meme.
Our savior.
Our savior.
It's just like Jesus. It's just fucking Jesus with like with the fucking Soviet flag overlaid on him.
Guy, just imagine like fucking Jesus with a Yushenko.
It's just a Christo statue, but he has the hammer in one hand, the sickle in the other,
and he's got like the fucking like deep fried laser eyes.
Yes,
it's like, what you mean? I'm going to be paying for everyone else's health care? Yes.
You mean I'm going to be paying for everyone's sins?
Yes.
If there's a part of me that wants real bad for that to be our picture, but it's probably best that we don't incur any sort of ire. But that might just be a meme for the boys.
I don't know, Pat. Fuck it. Like,
we'll see what
I think that's funny as shit.
It is funny as fuck. We'll see what we have room for in the fucking thumbnail for this episode. But. Another big happening for us recently that the lads, after a year's hiatus, we went back on a Black Friday trip.
Oh yeah,
because we're recording this the day after on Saturday, and we got to go all around town. Jonathan unfortunately wasn't able to join us.
I had to work.
So, but it was me, Tanner, Colt, and Wenzel, and we hit up a lot of places. We went to Second and Charles, which is sort of like a gently used bookstore with like new materials. We went to Barnes and Nobles. We went to World Market, which is like an international like snack and food and like item store. We went to Target and Walmart and Target. So we left about noon and didn't get back to about 6, and it felt like it was midnight.
Yeah, y'all were gone for a while. Like I was. Like, I got home from work, and I was like, where's Pat? I thought he was off today. And I was like, oh, yeah, you went to...
Yeah, I was just spending half my paycheck in fucking Black Friday deals. Now, I will say...
That's a mood.
I think I was only, like, second or third on money spent for the boys. I think Wenzel once again beat us all.
Yeah, he just poo. He just throws down the gauntlet every year, just like hide and watch.
Wenzel's
bitch.
just like, I'm a manager at a pizza store now. I got the fuck you pizza money.
Oh man.
But yeah, I got a lot of cool stuff. I got a bunch of manga. I got I was very surprised how much Stoku stuff I saw. I got a Ultraman figure in the style of the old like 1960s and 70s like Mego figures. Mm-hmm. I got a Kamen Rider model. I got some candy, and I finally found a 4K Ultra HD release of Scream, the original 1988 Scream, 25th anniversary editions. I'm very excited for that, and a sick Yu Yu Hakusho shirt at Walmart for $7.
Yeah, it's a sick fucking shirt. It's got the 4 main boys on it.
It's got all your favorites: Yusuke, Kuwabara, Kurama, and Hiei.
I still want to find that fucking Dark Tournament game and us play it.
Yeah, like because back in like early 2003 and the ensuing early 2000, mid 2000, Yu Yu Hakusho was like the quote new show on the block. It had been around for years in Japan, but like we just got
it came out in like the early 90s.
Yeah, but like us Americans finally got a hold of it, and like that was definitely like a bigger shonen of the era, but obviously not as big as like Dragon Ball or something. But like it had a significant place.
I think it's one of those shows that's more influential than it was popular, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like it, and like I can't speak for how big it was received in Japan, but like it's definitely like to ask people like what sort of your founding like anime series. Yu Yu Hakusho is definitely gonna be in the mix. It may not be like the first one, but it's kind of like the second rung down.
Yeah, it was like as far as like just mainstream popularity, exposure, success. You got your like more like A tier shows like Dragon Ball, Naruto, like the big 3.
Yeah,
and then after that there are older shows like Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, and it to me it's interesting like how globally like those classic anime series are a little bit different. I guess like what the availability is. Mm-hmm. So like I have a friend of mine who has family in Mexico and was raised in Mexico. Like Knights of the Zodiac is like huge in Mexico.
Yeah, and
which is like was a blip on the radar in America.
Yeah,
like it. And how like Dragon Ball Z is like it's culturally globally now. Like every single person who knows anything about anime, regardless of where you are on the map, knows Dragon Ball Z.
And I mean, for mine and Pat's generation, that was the shit.
Yeah.
Like that's what got me into anime. But that was like the forefront. Like I recently met a fella who like he was raised in the Middle East. And how like what shows he watched were like very different. Like I can imagine.
Obviously like Dragon Ball and Naruto were like big ones for him, but then he was pulling out series like I never heard of that one. He's like there's like some kind of drama series about a girl who gets abandoned by her family, but she's taken in by like an alchemist, and it's like her like day-to-day life and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It was like I've never heard of that. And it's like another like a romance series, and like it's really interesting like what shows are sort of distributed where like where those like kind of fall on the map,
or like the shows that like don't do much in Japan but like go overseas and just do like gangbusters,
like we talked about earlier, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, it wasn't received all that well.
It kind of
when it initially came out.
It kind of came and went in its day in Japan, but like Cowboy Bebop, it's like a formative series in the States, and and to maybe a lesser extent Trigun too. Mm-hmm. Because like those two are like inherently more Western in style and content, so it would make sense why a Western series like Trigun or like a space Western like Bebop really kind of landed here in the States versus maybe somewhere else in its native country.
Well, and also like Adult Swim, like we can't like have the conversation about both those shows without that.
It's how like Adult Swim is like it. Like we talked about this in our Toonami episode way back in season 1. How like Toonami is like this sampler platter for a lot of people, and it's like their first gateway into anime, and a lot of people respect. Like it was never like the only place where anime was shown, but it's like it's because it's in a like accessible place like Cartoon Network. A lot of people have that channel. Like a lot of people, that's where they get started from, because they have stuff like My Hero, Naruto, and like Demon Slayer. All the big shows that are out right now in anime, they're all playing on Toonami.
Yeah, and I think really that is more so for like nostalgia, because like when we were kids, that was the only way you could watch anime for the most part. Like I remember like finding streaming for the first time in like 2008. Yeah, and thinking that was like the coolest shit. And it's like, what do you mean there's a whole other Naruto series? Like, what's that? All right, cool, let's do it.
Obviously anime is definitely proliferated over the last 20-25 years, but you know, I remember very distinctly growing up in like the 90s, and like you would just see anime randomly. Like it'd be sometimes on Kids WB with Pokemon and our Yu-Gi-Oh! Some other like smaller series like Card Captors. And then, you know, Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network is definitely like one that had more access to it.
Yeah, they were definitely more open when it came to that stuff.
But still, like, I remember watching, like back in the day when it was like UPN, they would have shit like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and Pokemon. And just like, that was like just above basic cable.
Yeah.
Which
or the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, Sci-Fi Channel had some late night anime.
I think like probably like MTV too.
Yeah, because MTV they had I don't think it's anime, but like anime adjacent,
Decent,
like Aeon Flux.
That's probably what I'm thinking of as far as the MTV.
mean, Sci-Fi Channel is where the first place I saw Gurren Lagann.
Really?
Yeah, Sci-Fi Channel had a late night anime block. Well, they did back in like the early 2000s, but it was like weird shit. But then, like, it was around, like, high school, like, 2007, 2008, and they had Gurren Lagann, the dub, and I was like, holy fuck, what is this?
Damn, that... Because I thought that was just... I didn't know that came... Like, I mean, obvious... Because that show came out right as streaming got big.
Yeah, like the early days of streaming as we know it.
Yeah, and, like, fan subs and stuff like that. But I never remember like seeing that like on TV anywhere until like much later.
Yeah, they definitely had like it's like some very, I don't even know the name of them now, but like very, like I would call them like rare series, like in terms of like these are the ones they could get licensed and release. Like there was one of like someone dressed up like a chameleon. It was like very like moody and dark. There was one about a brother and a sister that were like in a fighter pilots, like World War I era kind of fighter planes. And like there's like one that's kind of anthological, kind of horror, kind of dark drama, like samurai show. It was weird shit.
Yeah. I don't know.
So yeah, like just to see sort of like the weird little timeline of anime and its place in the world.
Yeah.
Although I honestly at this point I don't remember how we got here.
Honestly, I don't either.
I think we're talking about Black Friday.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, because when I was editing the episode I did with Canon, and I was just kind of writing down ideas for Pat for the image of like what all we talked about. And it's fairly sequential, and it's like it would look like nonsense, but somehow in context it makes sense.
Yeah, because I remember Shimmy looking over the notes you wrote for that episode and like, what the fuck is this? During while we were recording Cage.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of things from our past, fucking Johnson unearthed some fucking deep buried bullshit from my subconscious.
Oh God, yeah. Earlier today,
because I forget how we got here, but we started talking about lamb chop.
Because Liz got a package in the mail.
Yeah.
A friend sent her this really cute lamb stuffed animal.
Yeah, a Valais black-nosed sheep. cute as fuck. It's on
They
record
don't
as the
look real.
cutest sheep in the world.
And you know what? I don't disagree. I think they got it right in that regard. But for some reason, that triggered something in the back of my brain. I was like, do you remember this show? It was a puppet with a lamb. I think its name was Lamb Chop. And Pat and Liz both about had a heart attack.
Because in the early 90s, like I would say 1992 to 1996,
That probably sounds right.
in that era on PBS, where it has like where Barney and Mr. Rogers and all would come on. There was this like very like humble Canadian American show called Lamb Chop's Playlongs, where a older lady named Sherry she'd have these three little puppets: Lamb Chop, Charlie Horse, and Hush Puppy, and they would teach you about little kid stuff, like ABCs and shit, and they're like very clearly like sock puppets. It was a very like down to earth, humble show, and I remember watching that when I was very young, like 2 and 3 in the very early 90s.
Like the fact that I was able to remember it was fucking wild.
Because they reran stuff all the time. There wasn't like much new on PBS, and they not really. I don't ever really remember PBS saying brand new episodes of Wishbone or whatever.
Between the
Wishbone
Lions,
fucking slapped.
I remember the theme song for Wishbone slapping. I don't remember watching that much of PBS as a kid. I remember watching like Barney and stuff like that when I was real young. Or what was that show? The Aardvark show. Arthur. Yeah. Remember watching a lot of that.
I think I remember when Arthur came out. Also remember Zaboomafoo. You remember that shit?
Zaboomafoo, yeah, I do remember.
A little
that.
lamer. But back on the Lamb Chop, that initial show ended, and then like we need a spinoff, something new and hip for the kids of today's 90s. So like around 1998, they had a spinoff called Charlie Horse's Music Pizza. It's where Lamb Chop and the gang moved to the fucking beach and opened up a pizza that would teach children about musical lessons, because apparently this was during a time when, I mean, it still happens, when public education systems were being underfunded. So the first thing that's cut is our musical and art programs. So a lot of children had no exposure to music outside of this show in some regards, because they would just have like the lady teaching people about music and musical education. But the gimmick is like they own a beach and a pizza parlor on the beach. And it's a fucking bizarre cast. You have like the initial like little baby puppet animals like Lamb Chop and all them. Fucking Dom DeLuise is the chef in the show.
Honestly, I thought he was dead at that point.
No,
but he died in like what, 2009?
Yeah, he hung around for about 10 more years. But the thing that fucking unearthed like the black bile in like the groundwater after the bedrock has been struck is looking at a poster, and it has these two giant like life-size puppets like mascots. There's one, it's a purple raccoon called Fingers the Raccoon. Do not name anything, just Fingers. It's fucking terrible. Who lives in the garbage dump outside of the pizza parlor, where they would dump their trash. It's old Fingers here. Let me play you a tune or some shit. But the worst one by far is just fucking unhinged. Like, I thought it was a Bigfoot, but it turns out it's as described in Wikipedia, it's an anthropomorphic, dim-witted orangutan that delivers pizzas on roller skates called Takeout. And
somehow this thing is offensive. I don't know how, but it is. And it may just be that it's offensive to my senses. That may be it. But it is I don't know if ugly is even the right word. It is the most uncanny, uncomfortable thing you will ever see.
Because like its face is so small and so low on its face, but its forehead is literally the same size as the other half of its face, its head.
Like if if you ever seen the Charlie Kirk small, like, shrunken face meme, it's literally that, but with a monkey.
And like he's like he walks around in like a fucking Hulk Hogan yellow like crop top with his belly hanging out.
It's just like, this is really uncomfortable.
And he's just like bumping into shit. And
God,
like,
what was this show called?
Charlie Horse Musical Pizza. I mean, and it's kind of styled like Chuck E. Cheese in a way.
Yeah.
But like, it's just it's like, oh, we have this, you know, this kid, he wants to learn to be a tuba player, but his dad doesn't like it, so he has to pretend, he has to sneak away and do it while he's at work, and some other bullshit.
God, I fucking hate it. I'm looking at it now.
And it's deplorable. It's so fucking... that is a paralysis demon. Like, God, I hate the way it looked. And like, the more...
I feel like it would have the voice be like, hey, how you doing?
I feel like,
I hope you're having a good day there.
It feels like his voice is sweaty. Like he just has a clammy voice, like it's just hot breath.
Like he's always just like really sweaty and always smells like BO.
And he only ever comes up to you by walking up behind you. He never like comes up to your face.
And he always announces like right by your ear. He's like, "How you doing?" and you punch him in the face every time.
I feel like if the host Sherry hadn't gotten ill and passed away, the real reason why this show would have been canceled because of that goddamn Bigfoot.
Yes, like unironically, like God,
I hate it. I hate the way it looks, and the longer I talked about it, the more I was remembering about it, and I got more and more upset.
And like if you go on Google Images and just type in Charlie Horse musical pizza or whatever the fuck it's called, there are pictures of this thing, but it's in like 120p, and somehow that makes it worse.
Yeah, it looks like an actual cryptid now because like the only pictures of this fucking thing that exists are like rips of either old home tape VHSs or like people filming a television and throwing it up on YouTube. So like it feels like this is like some like morbid creature that's been caught on film that we can neither confirm nor deny its actual existence.
I'm watching this fucker in motion now.
And Jonathan had such a dispirited look on their face, like they're just disgusted.
I am disgusted. God. Why? And I mean, I remember, like, something about Lamb Chop always freaked me out as a kid. Like, the puppets themselves are kind of freaky.
I mean, they're literally sock puppets with, like, decorations. But what was really weird is when they would have, like, the life-size versions of the puppets dance around and shit for, like, I guess other purposes. And it's even more uncanny.
I had to stop. I had to look away.
I had to avert my eyes from the abyss.
Excuse me while I pour bleach on my eyes.
God.
But yeah, that... I'm sorry for dredging that up from it recesses of my subconscious.
Simultaneous. It was like watching like a video online of like someone like popping a zit. Like I'm disgusted, but I can't look away.
Yeah, like, oh God, just...
And now that's just what your video timeline is just going to be. It's just like, I have to see more of this video. It's like you just get pulled down into like this video archive wormhole and you never quite return from.
God. You bringing up mashing zit videos. When I was at my mom's house, we were watching TV. And she... over like the past like couple years or so, it just fucking loves. Have you ever heard of that show called Dr. Pol, the vet dude?
Mm-mm.
He's like this Polish guy out in the middle of like Midwest somewhere. He's just like this expert vet, he kind of comes off like the veterinarian version of Dr. Oz.
Okay.
But like, I don't know. He seems like a genuine dude. Unlike Dr. Oz, who just seems like a lizard person.
Yeah, he's a fucking monster.
Yeah, and like each episode is just like, it's usually him going to someone's farm and it's like, oh, Bessie just started shitting blood. I don't know why. And there was this this like couple brought in their dog. It was a cute little black lab, but one side of its face was swollen like out to here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and apparently something got infected and they had to drain it. And it's just a split second of them draining it. And it was a fountain of just like white gunk.
God.
It was gross. And I'm so glad y'all turned away, but also like, why? Oh God.
Yeah. Like there's something about like, just like gross videos. Like there's one I saw about someone pulling a splinter out of a horse's side. It was a goddamn tree branch. Like no, like literally they pulled the stick out and it just kept coming.
Yeah,
like, that was a spear. Someone stabbed that horse.
Like I mean, I've seen videos similar to that where it's like, oh man, I gotta get the splinter out of a person, and they just mash on it a little bit, and then it's like
just gunk.
Or no, it just shoot like a fucking javelin was in their finger,
and like
I'm like, how
do you let it fester this long?
I don't know.
What's fucked up about my YouTube is that I accidentally watched a pimple popping video. I had like I'm kind of like down this rabbit hole for a while. But the thing is, I keep getting, and it's not pimple popping videos. It's fucking like diseased hoof videos.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It's like people on farms, like, okay, a cow kind of stands there in muck or in like poo, so like its feet, are very, have to be cared for more specifically. But it's all just like, check out like this bubbling pus inside of this hoof. And just like, what the fuck is this? Why is this on my timeline? I've never watched any of them. They're always there.
That's fucking weird. I will say, I'm going to steer the conversation into something less gross.
Yeah, a trigger warning after we're finished to talk.
Yeah, you now get the trigger warning.
We didn't know what we were going to say as we were saying it, but there will be a trigger warning on the timestamps.
Yes. But speaking of like your YouTube recommending you stuff, lately, did you know those like YouTube shorts? It's basically TikTok, but on YouTube.
Yeah.
I found this one channel of this guy doing trick shots, but the trick shots are fucking bizarre. Like he'll be sitting in a chair and behind him is a bookcase, and in the bookcase is a Nintendo Wii.
Okay.
That's plugged up, and he'll take a CD or something, throw it back, and it'll go like in the Wii, and then the Wii will like take it in, just like
into like the game slot.
Yeah. A lot of videos like that, and it's just this dude doing that. I'm like, this is really interesting. I was like, I'm glad, someone is making money just doing the stupid shit I did as a kid.
Yeah, just like weird, like Gambit level from X-Men, just like bouncy, like bing, 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 bing.
Oh yeah, like bunch of shit like that. But like what's really funny is he'll also do like behind the scenes stuff of like show you how many times it takes him to get it.
Yeah.
And there's some times where like he'll get it in like 2 tries or some shit. But most of the times he's like, yeah, I did this for about 1,000 times. And it
took me 3 hours to get this shot.
Or there was like one time where he's like, it took me 2 days to do this. I'm like, you know what? I admire the tenacity.
Yeah, the stick-to-itiveness. But very recently, my YouTube has just been me going through the backlog of a a very fun little video account, if you've heard of it, called Sidetalk NYC.
Oh, God. It took me a minute to realize what you were talking about, and I was like, Oh yeah, that was that unhinged shit. Fucking Pat.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. That fucking Pat put on our fucking TV
Because
last night.
it's been big on TikTok, and it's kind of like spread throughout. Like at least my family, they've been doing the Sidetalk New York bits. Like, what's the name of the president? Byron. What's the president's name? Byron.
God.
And it's just. I think it's like a kid. Like he looks like he's a teenager. He might be like in early 20s. But basically, he started like this bit where he gets like ex people to like go up and down the streets of New York City and just talk to like all the unhinged characters they run into. And a lot of it, some of it's like, you know, homeless people. Some of it's just like the passersby, and they're all unhinged. They say just wild, hilarious shit.
Most of it doesn't make sense.
No, it's just like crazy shit. And I'm just like wondering, like, what would be the AYCH for like AYCH new chapter? We hit the streets of Tuscaloosa and Birmingham and just find strange people to interview in like 1 minute segments, and like how quickly that would go bad.
I don't have the ability. I don't think really any of us have the ability to do that.
You know, because
like we don't have like that guy from Channel 5 level of like just approachability. So like I just can't imagine. And there are people like there are like regular like dope fiends around here that I'm just like, I don't want to interview those people.
I mean, they're like, I feel like you have to have like a certain level of like chutzpah. Just be like, I'm just gonna approach a random person on the street and then start talking to them and hope they don't fucking attack me or do something crazy. Because there are definitely moments in Side Talk where like the dude kind of looks like he gets in a little over his head, but always manages to work out. And plus, like, I don't know if there's a fucking like the cities of Alabama have the same level of like street character flavor that maybe New York does.
Well, because that's the thing. Like, I just don't think. Not to be like shitting on, you know, Alabama. I mean, they kind of do
any more than we already do.
Any more than we already do. But I just don't think there's really anyone interesting enough. Or like the people who would be interesting, like if we did it, it would just be kind of sad and feel kind of gross.
Yeah, it's like, at what point did this become exploitative?
Yeah, like that's the thing I fear it would turn into. It's just like, here's a bunch of like fucking white kids, I mean, who grew up in rural areas, you know, grew up in the woods, but like, you know, I don't know. I just don't want to like invade on anyone's space.
Yeah, and plus, I'm sure there's plenty of people who are critical of it because, like, well, it's obviously not to the same level as like fucking bum fight or like little homeless.
Which
people.
I remember hearing about that in high school, and even my like edgy teenage self thought that was fucked up. Like, it was like, that's not funny.
Yeah, like getting like homeless people, paying them like a pittance money to fight each other for entertainment.
Yeah, that's just, and like there's like various like meme channels we watch, which is basically like TikTok compilations.
Yeah,
and there was one recently where they like paid this homeless man to do something humiliating.
Yeah, like he jumped into like a pile of trash bags.
Yeah, and I was just like.
And strangely enough, it was like one of the reoccurring like homeless men on Sidetalk NYC.
Yeah, it was like,
kind of like if you're gonna give these people a platform, at least give them something out of it.
Yeah, at least give them more than like.
So it's not just like
bucks.
free entertainment for you and for your channel. I mean, obviously, I don't know the fucking political standing of this goddamn TikTok like project, but like,
yeah,
you know,
well, I mean, it's not even like political. It's just more so like
the ethical,
yeah,
and
not to be like a fucking Debbie Downer or wag my finger.
But let me just like break down the like ethical minutia of every fucking thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not what we want to do.
Yeah, we don't. Even though it probably sounds like we do it all the time, I feel like we do it all the time.
But I promise you, it's not as deep as it may sound.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is not about the channel that Pat's talking about. Like, to me, that doesn't feel exploitative. Like, and you have, at least from what I've seen, which admittedly is little, but like, in order to do that properly, you just have to be the right type of person.
Yeah.
And I would not feel comfortable doing it personally.
Yeah, I feel like I would.
And I'm just not like a super sociable person anyway, unless like I really know you. So like
to be like, obviously, like you said, it takes a certain type of metal to be just be able to be fluid enough as a person, just like to jump into a situation like, hey man, want to say something wild and crazy for the internet, and then like them not thinking you're just a raving psychopath and like run past you at best, at worst assault you. Yeah.
But I think the people who run the channel, they like live in the area, like they know the area.
So it's not just like someone from out of place being like, let's just go to find a local flavor.
Yeah, I just know like if someone were to come to like Brookwood or something, like from out of town and just like not, I would feel weird about that. But like if it was someone from Brookwood, it'd be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and plus, like I feel like not
because I will say I don't think Tuscaloosa or Birmingham. Well, Birmingham might have some crazy characters, but you go to fucking Brookwood, you can find some crazy ass people just in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah, it's just, man. The thought of that sounds funny, but then
then you start thinking, and
but the practicality of the steps to take to do that, it's like, do I? It should just be done.
It's like you've been so worried about if you can do it, you didn't think about if you should.
Yeah, it's always good to think about your bits, folks.
Yeah. Just put a little bit of thought before you say them, or
it's like a lot of things sound good as bits, but then we tried to like, oh, let's make this bit real. You realize maybe it's just better as a bit,
or even like it, like there's something that you might think is like funny in your head, and then when you say it, it doesn't sound near as funny, and you're just like, you know what, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, so it's always good to reserve judgment. And think about what your humor comes from and what it does, especially involved other people.
Very much so. But that fucking channel is unhinged.
It's fucking hilarious.
and I love it.
It's a good time.
The guy who just keeps calling Biden Byron is funny.
Yeah. And a good subset of that one is Spider Cuz.
Hold on, what?
It's like I think it's one of the regular like personalities, but he's dressed up as Spider-Man with like a bandana on his head and a hat over it, and he just runs around in fucking a Spider-Man outfit and Timberland boots, and just like it's just talking with people and just like saying wild shit. A funny one was when he had gotten so popular doing that, like he's at like Comic Con as Spider-Cuz, and then apparently he ran into a girl dressed as Gwen, like Spider-Gwen, and she's like, I've been looking for you, man. I heard you around town. So she just bought a fucking Spider-Gwen outfit and went looking for him. And they hung out for a bit on that segment.
That's funny as shit.
It's funny as shit. It's a good time.
You know what? I'm glad that's in the world. Something to give us respite.
Yeah, and nice 60-second intervals.
Very much so.
Yep.
The great thing, and probably the worst thing about TikTok is just how bite-sized everything is.
Yeah, it's like, can I feasibly read a book anymore? And I'm like, am I functionally illiterate now because my internet poisoned I can only take media and sections for so long?
Yeah, like I used to be a voracious reader. Just read anything and everything I could. Hell, got half a degree in it. I tried to sit down to read the first Wheel of Time book the other day, and I'm like, this is just a wall of text.
This is just gibberish. It doesn't mean anything.
It was like, hi, my name's John. I'm nearly 30, and I don't know how to fucking read. However, I will say, like, the 3-minute TikToks, there are times where I'm like, all right, come on, y'all need to hurry
This is
up.
like, yeah, there's definitely been times I've been like, this is much longer than normal.
Yeah.
This is like a whole ass just video.
God. Yeah, I will say, good for me. I have not really been on TikTok that much lately.
No, yeah, because when we were coming home from Black Friday, we were catching up Wenzel on 6 months of TikToks and just like going through our DMs. And it's like, well, Jonathan hasn't seen anything in a while. Are they dead?
No. No, I because eventually, because I am the motherfucker who will just send you anything that I think you would find personally funny. And a lot of times, most people don't read that shit or don't watch it until much later, until you like open the fucking TikTok app and it's just like 99 plus because it just can't calculate anymore.
Yeah, like it's hit the cap and everything behind it. It's just a plus.
Yeah.
Because I will say, like, you sent a lot, but it's not as much as Justin. Justin sends far more than you do.
That's true.
Like, I say that, and like I haven't been on TikTok that much recently either. And like, I feel like the stuff we send each other is like usually like weird, unhinged shit, and my timeline is like not that unhinged, so I don't know like what's fun enough. Usually, I send like, oh, this is like a funny animal video or something. Like, oh, there's a monkey and he fell over, but it's not usually like, here's a weird, awkward there was some fucking weird shit that they were talking about like, the other day, like last night when we were getting into Target, our last stop. Like, apparently there's this fucking guy. It's like how this one account kind of started trailing off for some people into like true crime TikTok. Because apparently there's this fucker who, like, obviously this person was like not in a good space. They kind of looked, they were like on drugs and they lived in a very disheveled house and just like doing this like weird dance. And this account is no longer active. It's been since deleted, which sort of leads more into the suspicious parts of it. Mm-hmm. If it is real, that apparently when people were like noticing when this person would upload while doing their weird uncanny dances in their like dirty house, they could see like monitors in the background, like, you know, like kind of like on a computer table with like several monitors and like video feeds on them. And on one of the video feeds, you can see a basement, and in the basement, there's someone sitting in a chair. There's someone in a basement. And as people were like dissecting the videos further, like in different parts of the living room, like while you see like trash everywhere, you see a spot that looks a lot like dried blood. And some people were thinking that this was like a serial killer. And now that the account's been deleted, some people thinking maybe they were up to something.
That's scary.
And like,
and that's the thing about fucking just internet horror in general. And I know this is like real shit, probably. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Cause the thing is, like, the cynical part of my brain is like, if this isn't real, this is fucking genius. Just like, because it almost seems like too perfect. Yeah. Like, at least from the way you're describing, for it to be real. Yeah. But like, God, like,
but the world is weird enough. Like, fucked
it
up
could
shit
happen.
Like, Tanner was telling me that there was like a Mob Psycho like fan account that he followed, which got shut down because apparently the owner of it like murdered their sister.
Oh yeah, I remember him telling that story. That's fucked.
And you know, there was those two girls who found those dead bodies in a suitcase on TikTok from like what, last year?
Yeah,
they're doing that thing where you your GPS sends you to a location, you just go and look at it, find some funny stuff, and then go to the next location. It's kind of like Pokemon Go and like some little internet game. But then like when they went to a pier, you see like a kind of like a rocky outcropping where there's like two like suitcase travel bags. They said like there's like a bad like rotting smell coming from it. It's got like garbage bags in it. And come to find out, there were there's a couple who were killed by their landlord for not paying rent. And those two girls on TikTok found that body. There's a video of them on their little game, playing their game, and they pan over and they see those suitcases. And this has been like an actual like investigation,
like real life case.
Yeah.
God, that is scary. Just and like, I know like creepypastas can take this a little too far and it becomes goofy.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about just only having just this weird glimpse into something that's, is not right.
Yeah.
And and shit just descends from
Well,
there.
like there's that one TikTok that people talk about, like they think it's like some kind of like spooky horror account. How there's a guy who sends videos of himself like walking around a city that's completely abandoned, like a modern city where like he's walking around parks and cities and buildings and there's no one there, and people are thinking like somehow he got sent to another dimension where he's the only person on Earth.
I don't know. I find that hard to believe.
But like,
but like, or you're talking about like this is sort of like
this is
the point of the account. Is
it's like one of those accounts that people are like, it straddles that line of like, is this real? Is this like a account? Because like it's just these like sort of like no context videos. Yeah,
it's sort of like those ARGs back in the day.
Yeah,
where it's like you don't know if this is actually real, or like it skirts that line between fiction and reality.
And because like a lot of people on TikTok are like children to teenagers. There's a lot of stuff that's like they're like, oh fuck, this is crazy, man, and then, like, you as an adult, it's like, okay, that's not real. But like, there's some stuff that kind of skirts the line in a fun way, and there's some that skirts the line. It's like this might be actually real.
Yeah.
Like apparently there's like because there's a movie called VHS 94. It's a new installment of the VHS anthology horror series, and there's like kids on TikTok who think it's real.
Well, there was that movie Megan is Missing. It was this.
Oh my god!
It was this fucking garbage ass found footage movie from like 2011
about these teenage girls who get abducted and killed, and people thought it was real.
Yeah.
Like it was an actual fucking snuff film or something, when it's just a fucking dog shit movie.
And it's just a bad, and like, because the thing is, like, it doesn't, like, I don't know how anyone can misconstrue that as real.
Yeah.
Because, like, I just like watching like a clip of like 10 minutes of the acting. I'm like, oh, this is obviously written by an old man, and this is what he thinks teenagers sound like. And it's really like weird.
Yeah.
But like apparently there's like the ending scene to that movie is like really intense or something, and people
or intense to a certain audience.
Yeah, and they just thought that there was a subsection of TikTok who thought this movie was real.
Yeah, I remember like that era. Was that this year or last year? Early this year or late last year?
I don't remember.
It was within the last year and a half.
Yeah,
and I remember like
because it was definitely during COVID. I do know that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just like, oh my god.
And like it got so bad. Like fucking the YouTube channel, Your Movie Sucks. He has an infamous review of the movie where he was just like, "This is fucking shit," and when it came out, the movie came out like nearly a decade ago.
Yeah.
And so he got like a bunch of hate from like these fucking like 15-year-olds who didn't know it wasn't real.
Yeah.
And they were like, how dare you make fun of the victims, blah, blah, blah. It's like, and he's like, shut the fuck up, you nerds. Touch fucking grass.
It's like, no, these people can't be saved by touching grass anymore.
There are other ways we have to get rid of them.
Well, goodness gracious, we kind of ran over hill and valley today.
It was something.
I would say it was a fun collection of content that we managed to discuss today, and it's always a good time to get to enjoy a conversation with Jonathan.
And same. Like it was funny because we were upstairs and we started talking, and it's like, you know what? We probably should just just start recording now.
Yeah, because like we had finished Wheel of Time, and like we had set aside a time to start recording. It's like, let's just start now. We're already like warming up, so let's just get it going.
Yeah.
So we covered a lot today. We hope you enjoyed it. And we hope you continue to stick with us for the rest of the year. We got a few more things to show you in 2021. We got some more stuff coming down the pipe, including we might have something very unique and special for the network as a whole that's just around the corner. We'll be letting you know as more information becomes available, but I think it will be a good boon for all 3 shows in the network. Mm-hmm. So please stay tuned for that. We're very excited to reveal it when the time is ready.
All right.
But in the meantime, be sure to like, rate, view, and subscribe wherever podcasts are found. That SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. Be sure to like, rate, view, and subscribe on those platforms. It keeps us visible, puts us in front of you listeners, and always appreciate you when you do it. You can follow us on our socials on Twitter and Instagram, AYCH Podcast. Letterboxd and Facebook at AllYouCanHear, Twitch at twitch.tv/AllYouCanHear, and YouTube, which is also at AllYouCanHear. If you're listening to this to the week it comes out on Tuesday, November 30th, there'll be a brand new episode of The Late Takes. Tanner will be discussing a new format for his show and some changes that will be coming to his neck of the woods, so be sure to check that out, be up to date on all the news and banter coming at you from The Late Takes point of view. And then on Thursday, December 2nd, looking forward to a brand new episode of Cage and Greatness, where it'll be a off-topic episode of Uncaged, where we discuss John Leguizamo's early 90s film, The Pest, and his 2021 comic, Phenom X. And you can't tell because it's audio, but Jonathan had a faraway, dejected look in his eye because...
I'm not ready. I am not ready.
Because that's going to be a very interesting episode. And lastly, you can follow me, Patrick, on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at John Lost His Name My Art, on Facebook at John Lost His Name Art.
You can follow... My name's John. You can follow me on Twitter at JONIIBOI24 and John Edson 12 on Letterboxd.
All right, thank you all so much for listening today, and have a good night. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Bye.